All right,
Max, I don't know if I'm gonna sit here for the whole thing. I may.
that's fine. Thank you, Cliff, for joining us here today on Vonvo.com. I'm going to type the questions over to you. The people in the who are watching and in the audience, I will, speak out the question as well, and we'll try and just make do as best we can. Um, so let's begin with starting off with my first question, which I'll type in now. Uh, okay, great. Let's move on to next question. Um, so obviously we're here to talk about. Um, yes, we got that fine. So let's move on to our next question. And I'll once again type it and then try and speak it out as efficiently as possible. Um, so overall, Cliff, just moving into the actual topic at hand, what is your overall position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? What side do you exactly fall on? And now I'll type that question into the text box. When it comes to the subject at hand, what position do you fall? Do you take? Can you elaborate?
Contrary to what most people think, is in the direction of peace. Okay, where a Palestinian state can exist side by side with an Israeli state, which is contingent on one side's acceptance of the other. Most people, especially elements from the hard left, they advocate for a one state, which is basically the destruction of Israel, both demographically and in terms of actual freedom. So that is basically my position in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you.
The camera is on. Hang on one second. Can you get?
If you want,
Hang on. Hello. Rim said she can't see me. The camera.
yeah, it's only partly on your face. There you go. That's better. Okay, next question. Next question. Um, Next question that I was going to bring up is, so are you familiar with how the Palestinians currently live in both the West Bank and Gaza? And do you think they live in a free society? And let me type that. Are you familiar with Palestinian living situation? Do you think they live in a free society? And who is to blame if you do not agree?
Well, in Gaza, certainly not. You have I believe that it's a free society. There are restrictions there. There's a blockade that has been imposed on justifiable reasons.
Right.
Our commission report of the UN has found it to be a legal blockade. Society, not because of it, just organization across the world. I've read reports that if you're as got smoke ash, you can jail for a year
It's not working that well.
for premarital pregnancy. You could get the death penalty. Okay, so yeah, the kind of culture that they're trying to breed over there, they're not interested in building a better society, Gaza. They're just interested in destroying Israel.
Okay. Great. It's not working that well, so thank you. Do you think
the blockade, they're not going to invest limited resources they have. They're going to, whatever limited resources they have, they're going to invest that in waging endless war with Israel.
Okay, great. So let's move on to
that is how that is everything that you need to know about them. I mean, I could elaborate more.
do you think the Israeli government deserves any...
Make sure you're getting all the questions that people ask, like Lena.
Yeah. So Cliff, would you mind answering Lena's question above?
Yeah, they're not destroying Israel currently because they don't have the means, but that doesn't change their intentions.
Okay.
The blockade has done a significant bit in restricting the arms import into the country, and in spite of the blockade, arms do get in. You have missiles, rockets, and everything that enter Gaza illegally.
No.
So just because with the blockade they could inflict this much damage. Charter, read it.
Okay, great.
That the charter kind of describes the intentions. Yeah. What's the point? What's the point of the question?
Do you think Israelis?
Yes, the checkpoints in the West Bank, along with the security fence, have brought down terror attacks into Israel by less than 10%. Yeah, hang on, Max. We can stay on the same. The checkpoints and the security fence have brought down suicide attacks and terror attacks on Israeli civilians in the last 8 years by less than 10%. So yeah, it saves lives, both Israeli and Palestinian lives. But if that's the only language that's understood, so be it.
Okay. Do you think Israel deserves any blame for the Palestinian living situation?
Yeah, a kid who pulled a fake gun on a soldier. To answer Lina's question, a kid who a fake on a soldier.
Lena, if you hear...
What happens in any situation when a gun is pulled on someone else, enforcement or any soldier in any part of the world? That is standard response.
Do you think Israel...
Max, to answer your question, Israel does not deserve any for the Palestinian living situation. Number one, as I explained to you about Gaza, interested in investing in the right kind of things to better the lives of the Arabs living there. Right? Best to achieve that ambition. So you can't expect life to get better in Gaza until they hold elections and have a party, a ruling power that actually cares about their civilians. About the Palestinian Authority and money that is supposed to go to the Palestinian Authority, they all go into the pockets of the leaders. Before it was Yasser Arafat, whose personal fortune is estimated to have been over $3 billion US, and now Abbas, even Ashrawi. So you can't really blame Israel when it's doing its job of keeping its civilians safe, when in reality it's a power so that they can get rid.
Do you think Israel is actively contributing to apartheid against Palestinians between the wall and separate roads? Check. Do you think that Israel's actively contributing to apartheid?
As defined under the Geneva Convention, there are two different jurisdictions there. You have the Palestinian Authority, you have Israel. They are going to use that infrastructure there for them. Now, people often like to say, like to use the word Jew-only roads, which is really not true. Israel-only roads. So, if the Israeli citizen who's passing through that so-called Jew-only road is an Arab, what happens then? What if he's a Bedouin? What if he's a Druze? What if he's an Arab Christian? What if he's a Circassian? So that separation. So these this propaganda machine trying to push for that Israel is an apartheid canard, So that argument kind of falls flat along with most of other.
Okay.
Yeah, and checkpoints are absolutely required. I mean, as I mentioned before, the checkpoints on 10 have brought down terror attacks in the last 8 years to less than 10%. So, as difficult and as thick as they may be, they're there for a reason. They save lives. Okay, so if you're going to show me a video where the first 2 minutes shows violence committed by, I don't know, law enforcement on civilians, are you telling me that's unique to Israel? What happens when riots take place in the US? The police treat them with kindness? Does the SWAT team and does the riot police come out and, I don't know, have coffee with them? Don't bring up this answer is to Lena.
Yeah.
Bring up instances that, any normally like that and then tell me that, that's something unique to Israel. Yeah, please. I would love to see who this person is. Yeah, if that is something that happens every day in Palestine, we'd hear a lot more about it. The only sources that, that kind of I won't even call them sources. They're just basically Facebook accounts with photographs from Syria that have been uploaded to show the way Israel is behaving. Those are lies, obviously, because those are from Syria. So I'm sorry that it happened. Yeah, please show me the video.
Cliff, if you're fine with continuing to answering Lena's questions, I'm more than fine with it as well.
What happens in a defensive war? Firstly, I think you're making a mistake. IOF, it's IDF, Israel Defense Forces. I think that's a typo, a purposeful one, I know, but call it what it is. Yeah, you're still making that mistake. Yeah. To answer your question, all of Judea and Samaria was captured from Jordan in a defensive war. A war that Israel didn't start. You don't start wars, and the international law again, and that's what I'm quoting, you don't start wars with the intent of destroying a state and then expect to go unpunished. In the years between 1947 to 1948 to 1967, every trace of Jewish life in the West Bank was eliminated. Synagogues were razed to the ground. Every last Jew was expelled. The occupation also by Jordan. Okay. The vast majority of them were expelled. The vast majority of them were expelled. The killings were about, I would say, 350 to 400. It's called UN General Assembly Resolution 181. The State of Israel was legally created, but the Arabs didn't accept it. Okay, and they started a war to destroy whatever tiny settlements were there. So please, the war, and they lost. Which occupied territories?
They're probably talking about West Bank and Gaza.
Lena, to answer your question, should I list out all the pogroms in the Act 41? Should I talk about the Cairo and the Tripoli pogroms? Should I talk about the 400,000 Mizrahi and Sephardi Jews who were thrown out in the 4 decades prior to the creation of Israel? 400,000. After Israel was created, 850,000, but prior to the creation of Israel, 400,000 Sephardi and Mizrahi Jews, 1.2 million altogether.
Unless you have other things you want to bring up, Lena, please do.
Consider myself Jewish to England. I support Israel because it's the morally correct thing to do. I'm a Zionist because it's the morally correct thing that I espouse, and that's how I. That was never a secret. Yes, it is. Yes, I am a proclaimed Zionist.
If you're having any technical difficulties hearing me or hearing Cliff, sorry, but we are resorting to the text chat as a means for going through questions.
Yes. Yes, I do support equal rights. I do support equal rights. Ethnocracies, in this case, my hands are tied and I will have to support one. Because clearly if we were living in a state where the Jews were a minorities, in any part of the Arab world, happened to the Jews. If we had, a one state with the Jewish people as a minority.
Okay.
Yes, I can, but I'm not planning. Can the 1.2 million Sephardi and Mizrahi Jews who were thrown out of Arab lands go to their land back? Padwa? Remember, 400,000 Jews were thrown out of Arab lands decades prior to the creation of Israel. So you can't blame it on the Mossad and false flag operation Mossad, and you can't blame that on Naim Giladi. Yeah, that I'm sorry that Give Back Palestine and all Jews will be welcome back. That's not going to work anymore because, as you know, 400,000 were killed. 400,000 were expelled from Arab land. Okay, so there's no excuse for those 400,000. Who's guaranteeing that? I'm sorry, who's guaranteeing that? All Jews will be welcome back if they wish to return. I'm sorry, do you know somebody in the Moroccan or the Tunisian government that I don't know? No, I'm not. I live in India. Yeah. It's Zanda. I think it's a little too late to decide, right? Most of the settlements that were created in the Mandate of Palestine were created legally. Land was purchased, it was developed, swamps were drained, housing was built, plumbing and infrastructure was built. Okay? So none of those settlements that were created prior to 1948 were illegal. They were created legally. Yeah, what does that have to do with Palestine? What do the expulsions from, I don't know, the 1920s from Arab lands have to do with the Palestinians? Why does the Farhud from 1941, the Pali and the Cairo programs from 1945, why were those Jews expelled? Clearly, that was just a. I don't understand your question. No Arabs in India. Why move to Israel? Can you rephrase your question, please? Hello? The Palestinians today did not expel them, but they were expelled by their Arab in other Arab lands for just being okay. So clearly Arabs also believe in collective punishment. Alright, so yes, the Palestinians didn't have anything to do with their, probably not, but they did support a war to destroy whatever tiny settlements were in existence at the time of the Arab-Israeli War of 1948, and a huge number of them were expelled from Arab lands as punishment for the creation of Israel and for the humiliation of the Arab countries in the 1948 war. So, indirectly, it is collective punishment. The humiliating defeat that the Arab countries faced in 1948 caused a mass exodus of Jews from Arab lands. Why? Because they were pushed out. Only a small percentage of them went up. Sorry, that's not just in 1948. That was in 4 decades prior to 1948 and in the 3 decades after 1948. So when the first 400,000 in the first 4 decades of the last century, about 400,000 that were expelled, most of them went to North America and Europe. where they were given full citizenship and full rights. All the Palestinians who were expelled, who now live in Arab countries, are denied everything. They're denied their basic human rights there. They're not being given citizenship by their own Arab brethren. And why? Just because so they can have a tool with which they can just dump 6 million refugees on Israel and destroy Israel altogether. Yes. Yeah. No, that's exactly what I mean. They want to dump that entire 6 million back on Israel because that is part of the plan to ensure that Israel does not exist. Well, you need to tell them that, my friend. Tell them. Give them full citizen, full human, treating them like garbage as well. Well, that's really unfortunate. But the Arab countries who house the vast majority of Palestinian refugees are going to have to figure out a way, because there really isn't a way for them to come back. Okay? Compensation, financial compensation for those that were driven out, yes. That is definitely on the final settlement. Yeah, good. That's unfortunate. Don't want money. You'll have to learn to live with it. Yes, of course. I can move from India to Israel, but no right of return for natives. If a legal entity exists, what is to stop them right of return for people of their ethnicity? Do Germans not have a right of return? I'm sorry, does Germany not have a right of return for Germans? Of course, yes. In Israel, but not yet. I know there are marriage laws and land laws that discriminate against Arabs, but that is something I'm ashamed of myself. I love some of the arguments that these people have, The last resort of the argued out attacks. Sorry, Max, what is the question? sorry, Fadwa, I missed your question. Yes, Germany did issue a right of return, yes. But why would a people who've been born and raised and ever want to return? Once they're born and raised and live their entire lives in a particular land, a land which for whatever reason they feel attached to, why should they have to go back? I would say needs to be left behind. There are still the issues of compensation for both Palestinians who were expelled and the Jews who were expelled from the Arab lands. So I mean, we can't really forget history altogether. There are some aspects of it. Further, you have to stop looking at it in a very black and white manner. Would any of the Jews who were expelled from any of the Arab lands, who were thrown out specifically because of what Israel did in 1948, as in inflict a humiliating defeat on the Arab countries, who were uprooted for centuries, would they be able to go back? Isn't that your name? I have to get this straight. When you say occupied Palestine, you mean all of Israel, don't you? So in short, so if you're not recognized, no matter what you do, nothing's going to happen about it. You're seriously telling me that we got to accept all your demands? Since all of Israel is occupied Palestinian, you don't like man of peace. Okay, right now the two-state solution is not as simplistic as most people might think. Okay, firstly, there is a lot of work that needs to be done. Honestly, in a two-state solution, presently the West Bank hang on one second. Or recognition of Israel. Don't say Israel, just Palestine. So you don't want to recognize the legal entity that exists right there. But I thought you kept accusing me of being whatever, racist, blah blah blah, man who doesn't want peace, including your pal Lena, who's calling me a curried Zionist. Okay, good. And Miko Palad is not an authority on anything, I'm sorry. So if you're not going to recognize Israel, even within the 1967 borders, what kind of negotiation are you looking for? Okay, Max, to answer your question, about both sides wanting own name on this land, Israel exists, period. They can do what they want, but that's the reality. It's not as simple as that. It's the other side has to accept Israel's existence. Clearly they don't, as Fadwa just showed you. For all of Israel is occupied Palestine. So that's recognition for you, you know. Okay, well then how about this? In 1948, if a war wasn't started, we would have had two sides now, don't you think? You start wars, you lose wars, then you can't cry victim, I'm sorry. You lose that privilege. Yeah, they voted no at the UN because the part of Oslo was all negotiations. You can't just skip the negotiation table and go to the international community whenever you like. Of Oslo. I certainly don't want most wars. I certainly don't want any wars. Israel exists with the compensation for those who were thrown out in the 1948 war. As in, Palestinians coming back to that land, you're going to have to give up land. I'm sorry. Has to be done of those families that were expelled in 1948. The number has to be analyzed very carefully. The refugee situation is unique. They have two international bodies dedicated to them. I don't know how and why that's even possible. Okay? And this is the first kind of right of return where the refugee status is from generation to generation. So that is not the norm, and that will never be. These people who who claim to be, peace activists, they need to start being a little more realistic about what they want, and stop asking for the moon and the stars. Clearly, that's not. Padma, sorry, I don't understand your question. Yeah, okay. So since bringing up the International Court of Justice opinion of 2004, tell me, let's go way back. Let's go to UN General Assembly Resolution 181, and even UN Security Council 242. How can you selectively pick out those statutes of international law that you accept and those that you don't? Lena, how has that worked out for you for the last 64 years? Yeah, 64 years of wars that people started. War after war after war. Wars, terrorist activities, intifadas, endless. What was the outcome of that? 1% of success? I would find war legitimate if Israel was, basically pushed into a corner. But that's not the case anymore. Israel has the upper hand, militarily, and it's proved that time after time after time in wars that weren't started by Israel. So clearly, I mean, now's the time to basically, take a hint that, guns aren't going to work with Israel. They're going to have to figure out something. Has it now? Said no on that. Remember Ehud Barak, Yasser. Yes, I think it is imminent that Israel stop building settlements. As I mentioned before, the two-state solution is not as simple as most people may think. Even dead, but I wouldn't go so far as to call it dead. So it is imperative that Israel also stop building settlements so that, I'm not really sure that's going to work because we know what happened the last time there was a 10-month set freeze. It's just that they want all of Israel back building settlements so that they can return to the table. I'm not really optimistic. I won't hold my breath about, anything positive coming from their side. But that's a part, we need to do. Lina, to answer the question, what happened in the 1948 war? What happened in 1967? Granted, that those wars weren't with the Palestinians, but clearly Israel was outnumbered in both those wars. What happened? Do you think the Palestinians getting, arms all of a sudden is going to make a difference? Racism. In any case, I'm not really sure why you're too worried about Israel being isolated internationally, because are you indirectly giving recognition to it? Just a thought.
Guys, if you're having any technical difficulties, just post your questions inside the text chat for Cliff to answer. Unfortunately, we've had some technical difficulties with speaking one-on-one, but this is potentially even better.
Greta, I think you need a fact straight. I know I'm Naim Giladi, and the Zionists threw out all the Jews from Arab land. So I think you're a little confused about 1948, 1967. You're confused about the Intifadas. Call if could be. I have some free time in my hands. I if this, if you're saying this. It does, yes. A pillar of defense. However, we were seeing dead children and dead people from Syria being used. As I told you, $1 million wood industry. Dead. Greta, do you want to start presenting some facts? Max, just a quick question to you. Is there any way I could copy paste the transcripts in the chat? I'm sure a lot of people would like to know a little something about Greta Berlin. Yeah, she thinks the Zionists did the Holocaust. She previously told me that it's the Mossad who drew out the Jews from Arab lands. Yeah, Lena, to answer your question, between Jordan and Israel, yes, who fired the first shot? Since Gaza is no longer, in control of Israel, not being controlled, who fired the first shot between Jordan and Israel? Yes, between Israel and Egypt, yes, it was Egypt. I'm sorry, it was Israel, and for all the right reasons. But that's irrelevant. We're talking about Jordan. The territory that we're disputing now is the West Bank, which was occupied by Jordan. So between Jordan and Israel, who fired the first shot? Let's see. Closing the siege of Tehran, amassing troops, making proclamations of radio on Egyptian radio, Uh, kind of, you know. So fatwa, in short, you're basically there's no recognition of Israel, right? Mm. What are Israel's reasons exactly? I'm not quite sure I understand that. Declared war on Israel in 1948. Renard, what is your definition of freedom? All of Israel is occupied Palestine for you, so what is your definition of freedom? You've created this title of, you know, hardline Palestinian supporters, or rather, should I say, hardline Israel supporters, and you claim. I said, Renard, you created click of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Minus. Renard, I still think your facts are a little misplaced. Most of its population is not atheists. I'm sorry. Versus Israel, because the disputed territory today, right? The West Bank. Whose control was? Simple question. Who fired the first shot between Jordan and Israel? Israel is a secular Muslim atheist. Yes, but I'm not an Israeli. Israel attacked Egypt, and I don't deny that. It had its reasons. The disputed territory is not Gaza. The disputed territory, yeah, the treaty between Egypt and Jordan is not Israel's problem. Who fired the first shot between Jordan and Israel? Let's hear you acknowledge that. Although I don't know how your question is even relevant, because as I mentioned, the vast majority of Israelis are not atheists. They may be secular, but they are religious. And there's no imposition of religion on anyone. So if people want to be such, and even if people want to be atheists, they have the right to do so in their own country. Oh, Zionists collaborated in World War II. Okay, so you do believe that Zionists also did the Holocaust, right? Greta? Yeah, Naeem Giladi has been debunked a million times. I'm sorry. If you want to give me I'll give you this one from 1967, where he claims in his book that there's a flight of Iraqi Jews who was actually ready to leave. The flight was ready to leave for Israel, but a bombing took place that delayed that flight. I mean, why exactly would Zionists delay a flight of Jews that are already heading there? I can refer you to one great piece. Hang on one second. Yeah, and Edwin Black is a conspiracy theorist, just for your information. He's hatched this grand plan about what the Arabs had. You know, the Arabs tried to impose their own Holocaust with the help of the Mufti al-Husseini. So I'm sorry, if you want to believe Edwin Black's The Transfer Agreement, you're going to also have to believe his book, The Farud and the Roots of the Holocaust. And Greta, just for your information, the Jew or that alibi Jew card doesn't work anymore. You may want to keep up with the times. Okay, alright.